President Trump continuing to take aim today at Mexico after announcing Thursday he would hit the country with a 5% tariff on all imports, everything from avocados to automobiles, until he says, quote, the illegal immigration problem is remedied. It was a major announcement that threatens U.S.-Mexico relations in what some say could devolve into an economic war that's already starting to have an effect on the U.S. economy. RT's John Huddy is live now with more on this developing story. John, President Trump, has he said anything more today?
Well, Manila, the president fired off, unsurprisingly, another round of tweets this morning, doubling down, really, and continuing his tariff threats with Mexico, writing, among other things, take a look, Mexico has taken advantage of the United States for decades. He says because of the Dems, the Democrats, of course, our immigration laws are bad. Mexico makes a fortune from the U.S., have for decades. They can easily fix this problem. Time for them to finally do what must be done. And then the president went on in another tweet to say that in order not to pay tariffs, quote, companies will leave Mexico and come back home to the USA. That, of course, remains debatable. He also blamed Mexico for drugs pouring into the country and the southern border, though, you know, we all know that, or at least the Border Patrol says a lot of the drugs go through various ports of entry. They're not carried necessarily on the backs. The bulkage of those drugs aren't carried on the backs of illegal immigrants coming through the border, but the various ports of entries with cars, with boats, with planes, etc. The 5% tariff on Mexico imports that he announced yesterday is scheduled to take effect June 10th, according to Trump, and will rise to 25%, possibly even by July, unless he says Mexico acts to stop illegal immigration. Now, speaking of which, U.S. border agents stopped a group of over 1,000 illegal immigrants at the border in El Paso, Texas on Wednesday. That's the largest group ever apprehended at a single time, according to U.S. Customs and Border Protection. But they were mostly migrants, really, from Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras. In fact, those countries really represent the majority of where these migrants come from. According to the most recent U.S. border stats, 97% are from those three countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, and only 3% are from Mexico. That said, President Trump's tariff announcement could certainly have a major and potentially lasting effect on U.S.-Mexico relations, including, some say, possibly even torpedoing the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement, also known as the USMCA agreement. Yesterday, before President Trump's announcement, Mexico's President Andrés Manuel López Obrador said his government was beginning the process of ratifying that agreement. The question is whether that's going to be stopped at this point in its tracks. Now, President Trump and Mexico's president have not yet spoken, according to White House officials, since President Trump's announcement Thursday. But President Obrador has already dispatched his Foreign Affairs Secretary to Washington, D.C., who's expected to arrive at some point today. And during an early morning press conference, Obrador had this message. Listen.
We think all conflicts in bilateral relations should be confronted with dialogue and with communication. Results are never good with forceful measures. We must act with caution. I tell every Mexican national to have faith that we will overcome this attitude from the U.S. government. They will be corrected because Mexico doesn't deserve the type of deal in which they're trying to impose on us.
So we'll see what comes out of those meetings, if anything, today. And, of course, we'll be following if President Trump has anything else to say. I'm sure he will. But quickly, to give you an idea, really what's at stake, looking at the numbers, Mexico was America's third largest trading partner in 2018, with $611.5 billion in total two-way goods trade. So what that means, it's basically a two-way street. The U.S., an example, sends auto parts to Mexico. Those parts are used for the assembly of cars and trucks, you know, Chevrolet, Ford, that are then sent back to the United States. Exports totaled $265 billion, and imports into the U.S. totaled almost $350 billion. Again, Mexico is America's third largest trading partner, right behind Canada at number 2, and then China at number 1. So really, Manila, the question now, how will this affect the things we buy on an everyday basis, you know, from fruits and vegetables, from produce to electrical machinery, washing machines, dryers, cars and trucks. It's already, as you mentioned, having an effect on the U.S. economy. The Dow Jones Industrial dropped 300 points at the opening bell this morning and remains down at this point. Manila.
Yeah, certainly a lot to discuss there, John. Thank you for filing that report. John Huddy out of the Miami Bureau.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.